If your goal is to build muscle, answer honestly. Is your main priority to impress other guys or is it to impress women? And don't be dishonest and pull the whole, oh, I just train for myself because we're talking about hypertrophy and bodybuilding. And if you're only really lifting for yourself, you wouldn't be walking around in public wearing tight t shirts and wife beaters trying to get people to notice you. So let's be honest with ourselves here. We want to have an aesthetic physique that attracts women and, as a bonus, impresses other guys, but of course also makes us feel better about ourselves. And if you want a full explanation on what the aesthetic physique is and how to build it with full training guides and meal plans, click the top link in my description. But when we're in the gym and we're training, we have to think to ourselves, what kind of physique are we trying to obtain? As in, which muscle groups are we prioritizing, which will give us different results when it comes to our physiques. For most guys, we want to build what's called the V taper. The V taper is the image of the aesthetic male physique, which focuses on that wide upper body with that slim waist and with muscular leg development. And this is in contrast to what most guys are actually training for in the gym, which they don't actually want, but this is called the X frame. The X frame has a much larger focus on proportions, especially in the leg muscles, to create an X like image with the large upper body being balanced with the legs. And here's a visual contrast of the V taper and the X frame so you can see what I mean. On the left, this is a bodybuilder named Frank Zane, and on the right is Chris Bumstead. Now, this is more of an extreme example because these guys are both pro bodybuilders who are on steroids, but the difference of the physiques and the priorities are still visible. If you notice how Frank Zane doesn't have massive legs and he also doesn't have massive shoulders, especially like the front shoulders, like the front deltoid, and his triceps aren't as developed. Both of these guys are legendary bodybuilders and are objectively very impressive, but you see how the different muscles that are how the different muscles that are prioritized give off a completely different image. And again, whether you want to look more like C-Bum, like Chris Bumstead, and develop that X frame is completely up to you. But I'm assuming that most viewers and most guys that actually go into the gym don't plan to compete in bodybuilding shows and then appeal to the gaze of judges. They just want to look more aesthetic for attraction and just for overall looks. And so, how do we build this aesthetic V taper? So, believe it or not, we actually don't want as much balance as you think. So, remember how Chris Bumstead objectively has a more balanced and proportionate physique than Frank Zane. But we're not looking to impress judges or look more symmetrical and proportional. To achieve the aesthetic V taper, legs are actually one of our least prioritized muscle groups. And this doesn't mean you get to skip legs or don't train them hard. You still want to train them with intensity and obviously train them in the first place. But to build the aesthetic V taper body, you shouldn't be too worried about not having huge legs unless you currently have very disproportionate or very skinny chicken legs, like your body's very top heavy or you just have very skinny legs, then you should really be focusing on your legs. But overall, they shouldn't be on the top of your priorities for your muscle building journey. We want our top prioritized muscles to be first, number one, the abs, number two, the neck and the upper traps, number three, the lateral delts, and then number four, the lats, which is the back. This doesn't exclude the rest of the muscles, obviously. Like common sense, you're going to be training them as well. But objectively, the most important for developing the aesthetic look and the V taper look are these muscles, which I just listed. And the abs are the most important, believe it or not. Some other fitness influencers will say don't even train your abs, which is foolish. But the abs are the most important because without them, the physique just looks flat. It looks unimpressive. And even if you have developed that V shape, which is that wide upper body with the slim waist, first of all, if you're lean enough, you should have abs. But if you don't have them because they're not even developed, even with the low body fat, it just looks off. It doesn't look right. And then that same thing goes with the neck and the upper traps because without them, you look skinny and weak from the chest up, which is actually very important even for the V taper and just the aesthetic body look. So again, you can have even the abs, you can have the developed shoulders and that wide back, but if you don't have the upper traps, which would be really hard if you have a big back, you should naturally have some good upper traps. But if you don't have the neck and the upper traps, you still look very skinny and weak from the chest up, which you think, well, that's not important if you have the rest of the wider body, if you have the rest of those muscles built. But then you have to realize you're not shirtless out in public. You're not shirtless or with good lighting 24/7. Most of the time you're clothed. And what people see from that waist up to see if you're really an aesthetic, if you have an aesthetic body or if you look like you go to the gym, is having that thick neck, having that developed neck and the upper traps. So that's like some of the most visible things that people often neglect that the average person gets to see. And so, oh yeah, so like the first two were the abs, the neck, and the upper traps, and then the rest of the other two most important for that V taper aesthetic look are the lateral deltoids and the lats, because the lateral deltoids are like the side part of the shoulder, which gives that more, like I said, that upper body being more wide. And then especially with the lats, because it's right below the shoulders and the arms, it's right above the waist, and that gives like the wings, which as you build a larger back, the larger your lats and the wider your lats are, the more slim your waist looks. Even if you're at some points, even if you're at a higher body fat, the bigger your back gets, the slimmer your waist looks, which automatically helps to build that more V taper aesthetic looking body. So if you want to build that timeless, masculine V-taper aesthetic physique, make sure to prioritize building that wide upper body as well as getting lean enough to have that slim waist with visible abs so you can truly look impressive. And if you want to build that physique and learn what all of the proper exercises are, how to perform them, get custom training plan, diet, macro guides, plus much more, click the top link in the description to join my Aesthetic Bodybuilders program, where I'll give you all of the information and guidance you need to know how to build that aesthetic body that will turn heads and boost your confidence. Join today and start building your dream physique.